but here I am, stuck in the middle with you. Ray Hartmann, here we are again, stuck in the middle.
Here we are.
How are we doing
I'm definitely
today?
stuck. Oh, fine, thanks.
Oh, I really appreciate it. Ray Hartmann, new Substack writer, and with Donnybrook 9 PBS joining us to talk about the indictment of former President Donald Trump. This is something that, we saw coming down the pipeline, and here we are.
Yeah, but there's an important qualifier, which is we don't know at this point what he's being indicted for. Now we know the subject matter. We know it's related to his hush money payments to Stormy Daniels in right before the 2016 election, which many people feel might have, had she not been hushed with the payments, and had she come out and the week before the election, as she was threatening to do to bust him, that he might not have won. So when you put it on top of the Access Hollywood tapes. And so, but what's really fascinating about that, CJ, is that even though we don't know what the indictment says, we really don't. We don't know what he's charged with. We know it's the topic. All of the Republicans in a chorus have come out, for obvious reasons, to placate the base, to call it a political prosecution. Normally, and I understand why, but it's like, don't you want to know what the facts are before you assume that it's just political? For example, I didn't watch it much, but I saw a little of Fox, and they said, I can't believe they're bringing this indictment that's so flimsy on the word of Michael Cohen. Well, you don't know that.
Right.
You don't know if what documents they have that corroborate what we all know what Michael Cohen said.
Right.
But they may not need Michael Cohen. In other words, but you have commentators feeling totally free to say, this is so obviously political. How can they bring this prosecution on the word of this liar? And you said, well, have you seen the prosecution? No. Do you know what's in it? No. Do you know whether there might be other evidence besides Michael Cohen? No. But you're willing to go out there and trash the integrity of the prosecutor without even knowing what's in there.
Well, right. And my big takeaway, too, from this, and you hit it right on the head, I was kind of going through and listening through, and to hear DeSantis come out and go, we aren't going to extradite him if that comes down to it. Well, are you going to say that before you know what we're getting charged with? It could be 10 times worse.
Well, let me push back on that. I haven't seen, this is my own private theory that I haven't seen anyone say. But I think it was really smart of Ron DeSantis to do that. And I'll tell you why. Look at and no one, I don't know why nobody's thinking like this, but I don't know. Look at what a position that would put Donald Trump in. In other words, look at what a shot across the bow to Trump that is for DeSantis to come out and say, we dare you to come get this guy. It's going to be the Alabama schoolhouses all over again, And it's like, that would put Trump in such a position of indebtedness and weakness. If he had to go to Uncle Ron to get protected from the big bad feds, that's the last thing. It's one of the reasons. I don't know why people are not pointing out the fact Trump's folks aren't resisting this at all in terms of that. The last thing, if you're Donald Trump, you want is the optics of being protected by Ron DeSantis. So Ron DeSantis knew full well when he said that there was not going to be a hostage crisis, or I should call it hostage, a federal state, governance crisis over extradition. He knew that because Donald Trump can't afford politically to be seen as being protected by Ron DeSantis from the feds. And I thought it was really a stroke for DeSantis, who had a really bad week. Of course he's not going to. Can you imagine how bad that makes Donald Trump look against when he's got to go to his rival to get protected from a federal, from the feds coming and taking him to New York?
That's actually a great point.
That's the last thing he wants. And so Ron DeSantis had no intention of doing this because he knows full well that that's the worst thing ever happened to Donald Trump, is to have to be protected by Ron DeSantis. And I just think nobody seems to, I'm the only one that thinks that, or maybe now anybody that agrees with me, two or three people out of how many thousands you have that agree with me. No, but I mean, it's like, I don't think it was ever, and it's everybody saying this is really weird that DeSantis did this. Trump isn't even saying it. That's the point. Trump doesn't want Ron DeSantis' help. And now Ron DeSantis gets to score points with the base by saying, yeah, we'll fight, and he's getting as much attention as Trump. It's got to be making Trump nuts, because Trump does, of all the things we do know about Donald Trump, is he will abide sharing the spotlight with no one. He does not want Ron DeSanctimonious, as he called him, horning in on his little MAGA moment here. That's the last thing he wanted, was for Ron DeSantis to get himself some credit out of this situation.
Well, that's actually, I've never even thought of it. That's a great point to make. And on top of that too, Ray, I was kind of assuming that when this happens, we're going to see this, base go nuclear and start protesting everywhere. And to me, I don't really see that. Is the favor of Trump kind of winding down, do you think? Are people burnt out?
We don't know.
Yeah,
it's hard to say. I think generally what we do know is that this indictment is helpful to Donald Trump in the Republican primary and hurtful to him in the general. I think we can count on that. And that to me, there's just no way that Donald Trump benefits from thinking general election voters, swing voters, that they're going to suddenly feel sorry for Donald Trump because his carryings on with a porn star, or let's just put it this way. We're almost certain, and I think it also makes it easier, takes Fani Willis's pressure off she won't be the first one now. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if Fani Willis indicts him for the next most serious thing, which is the trying to rig the Georgia election or overturn it with the pressure calls.
And now with that, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking. Does this open up the floodgates for more indictments? And sorry.
No, I was going to say, go ahead. I was just going to say, no, it doesn't. They're going to happen. I mean, they're going to happen whether they're either going to happen or not happen. This has no impact on whether they do it. I think it politically makes it a little less, you're not the one that you sort of, Bragg is willing to take the hit as the guy that broke the barrier.
Well, and too, we've heard so many, and I've been flipping through and just listening to different people talk about this, and I'm hearing, oh, well, you can indict a ham sandwich. Oh, Bragg said he wasn't going to do this, and now he is. Well, the bottom line is we're here, and there's 30 counts related to this, and now there's, what do you think, one or two that are probably going to stick throughout those 30?
Oh, no, I don't think it's like that. I mean, the 34 counts are pretty much just, for instances, examples of one or two charges. In other words, if somebody does a bad thing, here's 34 ways that
Gotcha.
Manifests. It's not 34 different crimes he's being accused of. It's 34 examples or 34 instances of in this case, false. We're told, again, we don't know, but if in fact the charge is falsifying business records, there will be, the 34 counts are, he did it here, he did it here, he did it here. Each one's a count.
Right.
And
that makes
I've heard of like a money laundering case, for example, which this isn't, but as an example, I know somebody actually know firsthand on this one, not firsthand, secondhand. In a money laundering case, a person was charged, and every time he transferred a money from his bank account from one account to another, that was a count. Okay,
okay.
It wasn't right, and so it's like that's how the system works. So each count is really just an example, and that can get overstated. I mean, but the bottom line is, it would appear, falsifying business records to avoid taxes is so common. They say that there'll be other cases filed every day by Bragg in New York City, particularly of all places, of that charge, usually a misdemeanor. So it's not like this is rare, but it's rare to Donald, that the president, former president of the United States is the defendant. And the real intrigue, I think, within the legal community is how it becomes how hard it will be to prove it as a felony. Right. And my understanding is they've got to show that the business that the falsification happened for a criminal purpose. Okay, and in this case, presumably that criminal purpose is to basically steal an election, or not steal an election, but violate campaign finance law, and otherwise mess with the system in some way that would have impacted the 2016 election.
Right. And I got two more questions.
Tricky.
Right. And two more questions for you, Ray. One lighthearted one, but one serious one. With this, the only thing I can think of is we always hear about this the back and forth, the way we are right now in our political system. Does this open up the floodgates if Republicans take the House and Senate back to start, looking for this political revenge?
They're looking for, again, sure. It's on, but we're living in a very strange time. You could try to rationalize this by saying, well, they're all scared of the Trump base and they need to patronize it. You'll notice that the Republicans in the Senate aren't saying much. Some of them are, but the Josh Hawleys of the world are trying to cash in on it. And Josh Hawley's talking about how terrible. And again, Josh Hawley is an Ivy League, educated lawyer who was a former prosecutor, meaning attorney general in the state of Missouri, and he knows better. It's like you are upset because someone's enforcing a law. It's like, really? And you don't even know what there are charges. Would you like to wait till the charge before you decide this is politically motivated? That's what I said at the beginning. Right. How does Josh Hawley know that this is nonsense? How does he know, as a lawyer, as an Ivy League educated banker, son of a lawyer? I said, son of a lawyer. the son of a banker. I'm sorry, a lawyer and a son of a banker is what I was trying to say. I messed that up. Josh Hawley knows better. How do you condemn a prosecution you haven't read? Right. So he's essentially arguing that any prosecution of Donald Trump by Alvin Bragg, who just conveniently happens to be black, which is political. That's essentially saying, Alvin Bragg's the prosecutor in New York City. Donald Trump's the one who said he could shoot somebody on the streets of on Fifth Avenue. Remember that? That was his famous statement. Well, I guess if he shot somebody on Fifth Avenue, you'd call it political if Bragg opened an investigation of that too, right? It's like, what would you mind waiting to see what it is? Well, it's kind of hard to.
Right. Well, and too, for somebody that loves the base, he sure did a good job of running from it a couple of years ago. Well, not here or there. But with that, with that being said, Ray, I got to ask you, I was with this arrangement because I don't know anything about how this is going to go. Are we going to get a Trump mugshot?
Oh yeah, that's happening next Tuesday. There's no question to be a Trump mugshot, but all the speculation about him being in prison, I think I happen to believe, and this is not as unique. I thought if I heard this on TV say it. My take on DeSantis, I haven't heard anybody say, which is I think he was playing 3D chess personally. But as far as Trump's not going to end up in a prison. I don't think there's any possibility of that. I think, the question is at some point, it's hard to say what's going to happen, but I don't think he's physically going to be in Rikers with a detail of 20 Secret Service agents sentenced with him. I don't know. I don't know how that. I don't think. Well, nobody knows, and so I think there's a lot that could happen to him that would be between. Being in prison physically and being somehow confined Yeah, I just don't know what the terms of a sentence would be were he convicted. And let's remember, he's entitled to his presumption of innocence. He hasn't, just because he gets indicted doesn't mean he's convicted. Right. And so, but if he were to be convicted, I think the odds of him as a nonviolent first offender going to prison are not good, with one exception. If he gets indicted for racketeering in Georgia, that could be a big deal, because they kind of lock him up and throw away the key there, and it's a state charge, so he can't be pardoned, and as New York is. And the difference is New York doesn't customarily throw white collar criminals in physically in prison. There are exceptions, Alan Bragg being one. Not Alan Bragg. Alan Bragg. What's his name? No, I'm talking about Trump, Alan Weisselman.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of.
He's in prison for white collar crime, and so it happens. But and again, Michael Cohen went to prison for doing apparently what apparently is going to be this indictment. So it's I just think it's unlikely that he'll physically be at a prison. Never know, I guess, but I think some kind of house arrest. Maybe they take away his golf clubs. I don't know.
There you go, Ray Hartmann. Hey, how's your new home at Substack?
It's good. Although people, and I encourage people to subscribe. It's what it's there for. But right now they're having a little trouble processing the payments. I don't know, but no, I'm getting a lot of subscribers.
Good.
And I'm just dealing with some issues there. But no, subscribe. It's going to be fun. I'm basically, for people that happen to, the couple people that might like my RFT column, which I'm no longer doing. They could get pretty much. I wrote my first one this week on how I think there's a political hit on this one woman, alderwoman Tita Peel, who took on the big boys on not letting them be treated, especially on a development on a tax break request. And I won't. We don't have time for some other time we can talk. But I wrote a column about that, about the intrigue in local politics in St. Louis.
Absolutely. And I will be making sure that I am subscribed to that, because you do a great job.
You.
All right,
I
Ray Hartmann, thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
1028, a little bit of change. Let me tell you guys about Alton Little Theater. G's Bend was postponed, but it is back on tonight, tomorrow, and this weekend. G's Bend, you heard Lee Cox on Theater Thursday yesterday talk about this reschedule because of an illness with the cast. They're very protective over there, and they want to make sure that they're keeping all of us safe when we go and watch these shows. And with that being said, G's Bend is going to be on March 31st tonight at 7:30 p.m., April 1st at 7:30 p.m., and on April the 2nd at 2 p.m. All ticket holders will have the opportunity to see this wonderful show, but just a week later. So with that being said, G's Bend by Elizabeth Gregory Wilder is the perfect dedication to celebrating Women's History, Quilters Month, and our American heritage, to be directed by Alton Little Theater's newest director, Marjorie Handy. The play is inspired by true stories of 3 generations of women in Boykin, Alabama. The play weaves the lives of quilters from 1939 to 2000 through the turbulent times and the resilience that leads their spirits to new light and life. It's an extraordinary theatrical achievement. So, for more information about G's Bend and how you can get tickets for tonight, tomorrow, and for Sunday, or for upcoming Alton Little Theater shows ahead, as we're getting ready, 90th season of being a landmark, all you have to do for more information, altonlittletheater.org. That's altonlittletheater.org.